Here we are at the foot of the television tower, which was built in 1969 to demonstrate the technical prowess of the GDR. It dominates the whole of Berlin with its 360 meters and has become one of the city's symbols. It is both simple and imposing. Look at this tall concrete column painted white, which rises straight up into the sky. It appears ugly, and yet at the same time inseparable from the Berlin urban landscape. Look up at the metallic-looking glass sphere. It stands at about 203 meters, and it weighs no less than 4,800 tons. Of course, as soon as it was inaugurated, it was given nicknames by the inhabitants of West Berlin, who referred to it as the asparagus or the toothpick. There's an amusing anecdote here. Not long after it was finished, all over Berlin one could make out a cross, formed by the sun's reflection on its globe. Furious, the Council of Ministers of the GDR considered demolishing the monument, although it had only been there 2 minutes. But the tower survived, and in the West, the population, although they weren't particularly Catholic themselves, claimed that this was the Pope's revenge on a communist atheist regime. In fact, this so-called television tower was used by the Stasi, the East German political police, to scramble television and radio programs from the free world and also for spying purposes. And now, if you're not already there, we'll go up to the entrance of the tower, from which we'll have a good view of the Alexanderplatz. Now turn your back to the tower for a moment, and we'll look at the square in front of us. We can see a glass and metal station on our right, and then just concrete blocks, faceless buildings which look just like those of the suburbs of a large metropolis. Yet we are not in the suburbs. We are in the center of the capital. These buildings date from the 1960s and 70s. But where exactly are we? Well, we're on the famous Alexanderplatz, with the television tower at the center. The name Alexanderplatz was given to the square after a diplomatic visit made by the Russian Tsar in 1805. This name was then reused as a title of a world-famous book by the writer Alfred Döblin, who depicted the years of crisis preceding Nazism. At the beginning of the book, Döblin described the atmosphere of the square in a few words: colossal. There are masses of people in Alex all rushing about, and they certainly need to be. In fact, before the war, the place was the hub of the urban network, as we can still see today with the imposing underground station made of iron and glass we can see on the right. Crowds hurried by between the department stores, cabarets, small shops, and cattle and wool wholesale markets. The underground station on our right is a lovely concrete, glass, and steel construction from the 1930s. Its originality lies in its imposing glass design, which was very fashionable in Berlin. In the 1920s and 30s, Berlin architects specialized in glass and steel architecture. It was no coincidence that many German engineers were commissioned to create buildings in the United States. Let's leave the television tower and go straight on towards the S-Bahn station, which is opposite us. At the end of the block, we can see the wide Liebknecht Street, which crosses another busy street at right angles. Let's make for that. This is now the beginning of Karl Marx Allee.